Alright, so in this video we're going to continue to look at x and y intercepts, and we're also going to start to look at using a table to graph a line. So first, using x and y intercepts, we first have to find our x and y intercepts and then use them to graph the line. So if you remember from the previous video on the basics of how to do this, when I want my x-intercept, I'm going to make y 0. So on this one I'm going to use this equation here, but I'm going to go 7x minus 4 times 0 equals 28. Because on my x-intercept, y would be 0, meaning I'm not going up or down. I'm going to be right on top of this x-axis. So I definitely want y to be 0. And it also kind of helps eliminate this because 4 times 0 is 0, and 7x minus 0, well, that's just going to stay 7x. So it kind of helps eliminate it down too. It makes it very easy. So now I have 7x equals 28, so I'm going to solve by dividing by 7 on both sides. 7 divided by 7 cancels, and I get x equals 28 divided by 7 is 4. So my x-intercept, where it crosses this x-axis, is positive 4. So I'm going to type 4 in here so that I know that I found it. And then I'm also going to go on the graph and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put a dot there using the pencil tool that's in the toolbox off to the side. So now I'm going to do the same thing with my y-intercept. So now I want to know, where does it cross the y-axis? So now I'm going to do the same idea. The y-intercept, we make x 0. So now I'm going to use that exact same equation, but now I'm going to make x 0. And it's for the exact same reason that we made y 0 on the last one. I'm not going to go right or left in this one. It's going to be on this line, so x will be 0 because I haven't gone right or left at all, only up or down. So again, 7 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 4y is going to be negative 4y or minus 4y. Remember the minus and the negative, that's just about reading. So really this minus 4y means it's negative 4y, but we read it as minus in the equation. But once there's nothing in front of it, I read it as negative 4y. And that equals 28. So now I'm going to divide by negative 4 on both sides. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 cancels down to 1. Any number divided by itself is 1. So y equals 28 divided by negative 4 is going to be negative 7. So now I know that my y-intercept is negative 7. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, put a dot, and now off to the side there's a line tool which will help you graph this. So let's see, I'm going to change this to a different color here. So I will connect these like this, and then I'll connect it back down so it can kind of go. So you won't have to do this twice. I just to line this up nicely. I wasn't sure exactly where that might land. So this is my line using my x and y intercepts. Alright. So now we're going to graph a line using a table. So we create a table to help organize your coordinates, and then we're going to plot the coordinates to graph the line. So you can see I've created the tables for you. I did not put the equation on the second one because it was kind of starting to get to the point of students writing it on their own. So this first one, I have x, I have the equation in the middle, and then I have the output. So we're going to input something, plug it in here, see what we get, and then what is our output? What did we get when we plug that in? So we can pick any numbers we would like. I tend to stick with the smaller numbers, so 0, 1, 2. So y equals 2 times 0. And you know what? I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's just a little too small for me here. Okay. So y equals 2 times 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. So my first coordinate is 0. X was 0, and my second part was 0. So this is my first coordinate. And remember, they always go x, y like this. So this, 0, 0, is my first point. Now I'm going to go y equals 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. So now this coordinate is 1 for the x and 2 for the y. So now I'm going to go 1, 1, 2. And now I'm going to do the last one here. And I always do 3 points just to make sure that we have this nice straight line. Really, we only need 2 points, but I always do 3 just for that extra little check. So 2 times 2 would get 4. So now I have a coordinate of 2, because that was my x, and 4 for my y. So now I'm going to 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that does look like a nice straight line. And when I go through and use my line tool here, that does look nice and lined up. And I can go down. So again, you won't have to do this double line like that, going back and forth. You'll just click the 2 points and it will graph the whole line for you very nicely on Alex. So this is the whole idea of what we're doing. So now we have something a little bit more complicated. Whoops, forgot to turn the line tool off, darn it. Whoop. Y equals negative 3/5 x plus 1. Where did my pencil tool go? There it is. I need settings, because I'm going to take this down just a little bit. Sorry. Get to listen to me mess with stuff here. So I'm still going to go 0, 1, and 2. But now I have y equals negative 3/5 times 0. So the main problem with going 0, 1, and 2 on this one is that we're going to end up with decimals. And that's perfectly fine. Now on this first one, you're not going to end up with any decimals because anything times 0 is going to cancel. So y is just going to equal 1. So my first coordinate is 0. Usually I cross off my zeros there. And 1. Because I put in 0 and I got out 1. So it's going to be 0 for x, but 1 for y. Like that. So in the very next one, if I plug in 1, well, 1 times the fraction's going to stay a fraction. So one thing you can do on this one, if you know that you're multiplying by a fraction, look at the denominator and use multiples of that denominator. It makes it much easier. So instead of going 0, 1, 2, I'm going to go 5 and 10. So now I have y equals negative 3/5 times 5 plus 1. And if I come up here, so that you can see a little bigger here, times 5, well, this is divided by 5, multiplied by 5, so it cancels. And it just becomes negative 3 plus 1. Well, negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. That, so now I have 5 and negative 2 for my coordinate. And so I'm going to have y equals negative 3/5 times 10 plus 1. So now same thing, I have negative 3/5 times 10 plus 1. So it doesn't quite cancel exactly because I don't have 5 and 5, but 5 and 10 do cancel. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So now I have negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 1. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. So now I have 10 and negative 5. So let's go ahead and graph these ones. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So all the way to the edge here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that does look like a nice straight line there going to the side. So they do look like they're all in a nice straight line. And when I connect this, they do in fact line up nicely. So that does work. Again, you only need 2 points to graph. On Alex, it's only going to require 2. But you can put as many points as you would like so that you can kind of test and make sure that it all works out. So you are welcome to use that same idea of x and y intercepts as well, because you can just say, well, where does it cross the y-axis, where does it cross the x-axis, and graph those two. Now this one would not work with just that 1 point because it crosses the x and y-axis right here, right there in the middle. So I would only give you 1 point. You need more than 1 point to graph a line. So, alrighty, so this is graphing using x and y axis and the beginning of using a table. So go ahead and go on Alex and give that a try.